All right, good morning everyone. Guess what this video's about? Gimme heads. You know, my favorite group of all time is Talking Heads, and I've been wanting to do something, talk about them, because I got quite a bit of Talking Heads, and really for me they were an extremely influential group. So today's the day. Been out traveling the past few weekends, so finally got a little time. Actually going to be home for a full week, so thought to get some of this done. This last weekend I was down in Omaha, Nebraska. I wanted to get there because I heard it was going to be over 100 degrees both days, and luckily I was able to make it there to have over 100 degrees. But I'm going to show you this. I went out to eat at a barbecue place in a place right next to Omaha called Bellevue, and it was a place called Swine Dining. Is that just not the coolest name? Swine Dining. It was awesome barbecue too. Man, that was good stuff. But it was just kind of fun to go there. You know, I don't buy a lot of shirts like that, but I like a barbecue shirt. Nothing like a good barbecue shirt. There's some crap on the back too, but it was a good experience. But let's get into this so it doesn't take like all day long. So first, just why Talking Heads? In 1978, I was in college, sitting in the dorm room. It's a Saturday night. Obviously, I didn't have a date or something. And I was watching Saturday Night Live. And they introduced the musical guest of the night. And this band comes out with 4 people. And what I remember is the very first song. It caught my attention. It was, I'm painting again. I'm painting again. I'm cleaning again. I'm cleaning my brain. I go, wow, that's not Boston. That's not Electrolyte Orchestra. What the hell is that? It was awesome. It was the Talking Heads doing Artists Only. Then they come on later in the show and they do Take Me to the River, the Al Green song, which, you know, a lot of people know Talking Heads. And I was sold. The next day I went out and I bought their album, which was their second album, More Songs About Buildings and Bricks. And from then on, I've had a love affair with this group. And, you know, they were so creative. So I want to show you some of the stuff, talk a little bit about them. You know, Talking Heads started about 1973, actually. David Byrne, Chris France, and Tina Weymouth, they were in college. They were in Rhode Island School of Design. And David Byrne and Chris France formed a group, I believe, called the Artists or something like that. Didn't do very well, kind of broke up. But a few years later, they moved to New York City. And all 3 of them moved there. And they were trying to start their band. They couldn't get they couldn't get a bass player. So Chris France convinced his girlfriend, Tina Weymouth, who had been the artist's biggest fan, she drove them everywhere, but convinced her to learn to play bass. And what he did is he gave her Suzi Quatro albums. So she's listening to Suzi Quatro albums and learning to play the bass. Well, you know, they form. They go out their very first gigs at CBGB's, and they're supporting the Ramones. And it was the start. Well, CBS looks at says no, then Sire looks at him and says, hey, I like these guys. And they made a song, but they found they needed more. So they added a keyboardist slash guitarist, Jerry Harrison. Jerry Harrison, of course, came from the Modern Lovers. So there it was. The 4 were formed. And in 1977, they put out their very first album, Talking Heads 77. Catchy title. At least you know what year it is. I don't have to look on the back on there. And great album. It was a really nice start. It was labeled art rock, not punk rock, but more art rock because it was different. It was very quirky. It had some interesting music, and the big song off this one that everyone really knows is Psycho Killer. And when this came out, the Son of Sam had just started his killing spree in New York City. Been doing it for around 4 months. They thought Psycho Killer was about him, but actually they had written that a while, you know, a few years before that. You know, David Byrne had written that. But, you know, it was a really neat start on here. You know, Love Comes to Town was really popular. Obviously, Psycho Killer. Don't Worry About the Government. The book I read. Just quirky kind of songs. Really kind of different. Well, so that came out. Then in 78, which this one came out, More Songs About Buildings and Bricks. All right, so this is the one that got me started into Talking Heads. I said I saw them on Saturday Night Live, and I went out and I bought them immediately. We have Thank You for Sending Me an Angel, With Our Love, Warning Signs, a wonderful. Girls Want to Be with Girls. It's just song after song, and it was just, and you watch David Byrne, he has this jerky kind of motion, and it was the perfect voice for this album. The other neat thing about this is Brian Eno came in and produced this. This was the first of the 3 albums that Brian Eno produced. So it took the lyrics of here and added musicality to it. And so what you began, it was the beginning, you could start to hear some of the African beat coming in and different rhythms, which Brian Eno was so famous for, and that caught people's attention. So Take Me to the River obviously got them on Bandstand and a variety of other things. So the band began to take off. Then came the next year, that was 78. 1979, Fear of Music, and this was a neat one. It was raised. You can kind of see that on there. This was a dark album, more dark than the other ones. The other ones were more poppy, kind of happy songs. This got into, it doesn't have the track listing. I can't remember them all on there. I'm sorry on here. What was interesting, I bought this. I bought it right away when it came out. And the very first song was I, Zimbra. And my first thought was, what the hell is that? That's not Talking Heads. That's not Artists Only. That's not Take Me to the River. What are these guys doing? And I was just kind of pissed off about the whole thing. But then I listened to it again and again, and I began to find, wow, this is really neat stuff, because there's a whole different direction that Eno took them. Definitely brought in more of the African rhythms, which you hear in I, Zimbra. They'd been listening to Fela Kuti out of, I believe, Nigeria, and so that was a huge influence for them. But they had songs. They only liked one word on these songs, so songs like mind, paper, cities, air, heavens, animals, drugs. I mean, just neat stuff, but a whole different way they were going. Their biggest song on here was Life During Wartime. You remember that, the lyrics, this ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around, no time for Mud Club or CBGBs. I got it, I don't got time for that now. And Cat is back. All right, Cat, dude, come on, dude. Why, every time. My favorite song on this one, though, was really the song Heaven. And Heaven was to me, it was a beautiful song. It was slower. It was the slowest song I've ever heard them do, but I really liked it. Heaven is a place where nothing ever happens. How neat is that lyric? That is so neat, Heaven was a band. It was a bar, the bar in heaven. All right, so then we move into the next year, and then we came in Remain in Light. I bought this right away, once again, when it came out. My first reaction was, what the hell is that? Come on now. I mean, I just got into this other album, and now you switch directions again? And I'm just, what? And I didn't like it, just like I didn't like Fear of Music right away. But I kept listening to it and listening to it. And the grooves, this thing is like the grooviest album in the whole wide world. They laid out, there was Arabic grooves, there was African grooves, but it had such great rhythm. They expanded their band. They added in Adrian Belew, the guitarist. They brought in Bernie Worrell, from Parliament Funkadelic. So it just, bam, man, it was there I say, I used the word fantastic already. The Great Curve, Cross-Eyed and Painless, Born Under Punches, Once in a Lifetime. Oh, you may ask yourself, How did I get here? Remember that from that video? Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Ah, fun. I mean, it's like, what the hell? But his talking heads, everything they did made you kind of look and go, what are you guys doing? But this was the last of the Brian Eno albums. His footprints all over it, but he got burned so interested in world music that he's taken that the rest of his career, and it's something he's gone into. More Songs About Buildings and Bricks is my favorite. This is such a close, second to it. I really like it because the grooves were fantastic. Well, my first listen, I just go, huh? I don't get it. All right, so that was in '81. Now, Tina Weymouth and Chris France really weren't happy with Eno. They weren't really liking the direction, and the band was getting a little tense. So they kind of, for 3 years, they didn't put out anything, but they did some solo projects. For instance, Chris France and Tina Weymouth came up with the Tom Tom Club, and on here they had Genesis of Love, which is so sampled. It's been on so many different songs, the groove on that. Really, this is a fun album for those that like Talking Heads. Tina and Chris took a vacation in the Caribbean. They went to Haiti, they went to Jamaica, and it really influenced them on this. And Tina does a lot of the singing. Really, again, groove related. David Byrne and Brian Eno came up and they did this one, My Life in the Bush of Ghosts. And when I first listened to this one, I go, what the hell is that? I said that a lot with the Talking Heads because they kept changing, which is why there's such a great group. This has been an album that has grown with me through the years, and now it's just one of my essential albums. My favorite track on here, if I can even, the name's that Jezebel Spirit, that's it. They go and they recorded an exorcism, and they're pulling Jezebel, the devil, out of a person. And so this exorcism's going on with this fantastic groove and beat going on behind it. Really interesting stuff. The whole album was a really great thing. I really enjoyed it. But what was Jerry Harrison doing? Well, Jerry Harrison came out with The Red and the Black. So this was his first album that he came out with. And, he put it out. Did it do as well? No. Actually, Jerry Harrison came out later and he did this one, The Casual Gods, which I really liked on here, and I thought this was a very good album. Did it do well? Not really, but I thought he had some great songs. Jerry Harrison actually, after Talking Heads, became known as a producer. He produced a lot of people, and still does. So they had this 3-year hiatus. They actually put out a live album, which shockingly, as I was getting this ready, I don't own that live album. It's called, the name of this band is Talking Heads. I have it on a cassette tape that I taped from someone. The name of this band is Talking Heads, was put out because everyone kept calling the Talking Heads. Hey, here's the Talking Heads. It was just Talking Heads. And, Talking Heads came because David Byrne thought about, on TVs, they have, the talking head. It's just a shot of a head talking. It's all content, no action, which is kind of how they were with their lyrics. They just stand there, not a lot of action, but there's a lot of content. So that's how Talking Heads came. But then in '84, Talking Heads went big time. MTV got a hold of this one, and this is Speaking in Tongues. And this one had Burning Down the House. And it burned down the charts. It was really popular. One of the greatest videos of all times. It really was spectacular. This was the first one without Brian Eno. And, it didn't have all those grooves on there. But it just, the songs are really popular. Make Him Flippy Floppy. How fun is that? Girlfriend is Bitter. Slippery People. Wonderful song on there. Swamp. This Must Be the Place. Naive Melody, which is a really kind of a happy, almost kind of a love song. It's so, this album really sold very, very well. And a lot of people like that. When they think of Talking Heads, they think of this one here. So, great thing. Then came the movie, Stop Making Sense. And this was a neat one. This was an early copy, so it had a really nice book in here it came with. This, many people, including myself, will say is the greatest concert film of all time. Now, if you don't like Talking Heads, it obviously isn't. But it was done so well. It was so interesting on how they did it. The very first song, it starts with David Byrne walking out on the stage with a boombox. Puts down the boombox, it has a track on there. It's just a groove. And he starts playing that, and he does Psycho Killer, his guitar, himself, and his boombox. Second song, out comes Tina Weymouth to join him with her bass. She starts on just this beautiful bass, and she does Heaven from Fear of Music. So her and David Byrne. Third song, out comes Chris France, and they do a song from their more songs about buildings and bricks. Fourth song, Jerry Harrison pops out. The whole time, they keep building the set, so the roadies are behind there. They're building the set. Then by the fifth song, the rest of the band starts coming out, and away they go. David Byrne has this funky suit that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Absolutely wonderful concert, wonderful album. Show you this. Here it is. This one only had, the album when it came out, it had a total of 9 tracks on there, okay? It had the beginning ones, then it had when they really began to groove. Eventually, they came up with the CD, and the CD had all 16 tracks from the concert film. So it really is worth finding this. Maybe they've done it now on album. If they have, I missed it. But the CD had the complete concert. And of course, you can buy the DVD. I have that. Lord knows where I can't find the dang thing. All right. So that got everyone interested. That was in the theaters. Folks loved it. And again, my favorite concert. All right. Then they came out with Little Creatures. Little Creatures was like Americana almost. This was, shall we say, the most normal. It didn't have all the quirkiness. It just had fun songs on here. This had, and She Was, which of course became a really big hit. Road to Nowhere. Creatures of Love. And they had funky suits. Isn't that neat? This was their best-selling album that they did. For myself, after the Stop Making Sense, I thought they began to lose them because some of their quirkiness began to go. Maybe I liked some of that Brian Eno stuff, but still, a very good album. For those that aren't sure if they like the Talking Heads, that might be an album to start with because it's very accessible. David Byrne did a movie called True Stories. True Stories. So this soundtrack came out about that. It was kind of a comedy, I guess. I actually have never seen it because, the album was all right, but this just wasn't a favorite album of mine. They had a variety of, you can see videos from True Stories about, there's just, stories about different people on there. It was more of a David Byrne project, I felt, and the Talking Heads really weren't involved. Finally, in '89 came out their last album, and it's Naked. This one, they got political. I can't say I should say David Byrne got political. He got into the environment. So it's some darker themes on here. They brought back some of the funk that had been missing on the other two because the Talking Heads were an extremely funky band, especially after Brian Eno joined them. So this was, their final album. And, again, you can go and you can see videos from it there. But it really was the big, True Story, to me, True Stories was the beginning of the end. This one here was being recorded. Byrne came in later and did the vocals, so they really weren't being such a band. Eventually, in 1991, I believe, David Byrne was on an interview and said, hey, Talking Heads have disbanded. And that was it. The band didn't know about that, by the way. They didn't get the memo, but it happened. So some of my other Talking Heads items. This came out, this was a record store day. It was Talking Heads at the Boston Tea Party. This is from 1979. So this has, a lot of the fun songs from, their second and third album. More songs about buildings and bricks and fear of music. It's a 2 LP set. I was really excited when this came out for record store day, and of course had to scoop that up. That was an important find. Here was one of the bootlegs that I've found through the years on there. My cat is sneezing like crazy. Workshop Image. All right. Is the quality great? No, it's not the best quality, but I bought it because it was Talking Heads, and I, obviously I'm kind of, love this group. This was recorded in 1977 at CBGB's, so that's what makes it interesting. Maybe why the recording isn't as great on there, but so you see a lot of the songs are from their first 2 albums on here. Dude, you all right, man? Had this one I bought, and this is a promo live on tour from 1979, and it came out from who is the Warner Brothers Music. How about that? It's actually from Sire Records, but it looks at, again, 1979, some of their live music that came out. The one I shown at the start, Gimme Heads. Again, this was a bootleg that popped out. This came out after Fear of Music. This really has a lot of early demos and things on there, along with some live tracks when they were in Europe. So, quality-wise, sound-wise, isn't top-notch, but it was Talking Heads, and I like the cover work on there. I've bought some EPs as I find them. This Must Be the Place on here. Just a nice little Talking Head EP. Nothing on the back on here. So this came from Speaking in Tongues. Another EP I bought, Nothing But Flowers here. And this one came out in 1988. Just a couple tracks on there. They have Nothing But Flowers, Ruby Deer, and Facts of Life. Another EP I got here, Girlfriend Better, the extended version of that, and Once in a Lifetime extended version is on here. So, my cat just is sneezing like crazy. Picked up this book a number of years ago that I really like. The name of this book is Talking Heads. What a great title on there. I've never really seen it out there. I was in some record store many years ago and I found this. This is written earlier in their career, so all the pictures are of a very young Talking Heads group, which is really nice to see. Here, come on, guy. Come on. Hello. Hi, how are you? Fine. All right. Record Store Day has had some different 45s here. This Must Be the Place. This was with Ecclesmith and Talking Heads. Then they also did This Must Be the Place with the Wildlings. So one was 2016, 2017. Must be a great song. They did it twice. I picked up this one a long time ago. Talking Heads, Hey Now, Radiohead. This is from True Stories. Little 45s. Box set you can find out there. This came out a number of years ago, kind of falling apart a little bit. It's a 3 CD box set. It's not, that thing kind of falls apart, and it doesn't store worth a darn because look how long it is. Like that really goes, just doesn't fit anywhere. But Talking Heads. A few years ago they did a reissue in CD where they added all kinds of extra tracks on here. A lot of this was some of their unfinished songs or specific grooves, like this one here, that had all their grooves. They added in called the double groove, Fella's Riff, Unison, an unfinished outtake. So it was just different outtakes, things they had finished, songs they hadn't finished. it was interesting stuff. So I mean, they reissued that. They had Fear of Music on there. They did the reissue here, more songs about buildings of bricks, Talking Heads 77. Some of the other stuff got reissued too, but to me, these were the essential albums that I had to have. So that's my Talking Head stuff. I have everything else in CD, some couple different times on there. It was an album, it was a group that was phenomenal. They really changed again. They brought in new wave, they brought in art rock, and in a whole different, type of a music genre there, and totally enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed watching my Talking Head collection. If you don't like Talking Heads, it's probably just the worst video and you're left a minute, after 1 minute. But if you like Talking Heads, I hope you enjoyed seeing what I have. Give me comments, talk to me about what you like about Talking Heads. I'm always interested in hearing what you have to say. It's still one of my all-time favorite groups. I just never get enough of them. Hope you enjoyed them too. Have yourself a wonderful day.